Hello everyone, this is David Downs with Benton Downs Photography. I wanted to pass along a couple of quick tips that I use in post-processing when editing my images. Before I get started, I wanted to mention our upcoming Dallas Skyline workshop being held on April 14th. We'll have a great time. We're going to meet down at the Trinity Groves area for a little pre-work and discussion, and then get up on the levee and do some shooting from different angles. As part of that workshop, I'll also be doing some tutorials on post-processing of images. For example, this image that started like this, and through post-processing using Lightroom and Photoshop, wind up with this finished product. We'll also work on some panoramas, and I've got two different sets that I will do. One of the Margaret Hunt Hill Bridge that gives me this image, and then another one of the night skyline that resulted in this image here. So let's get on to the two quick tips. For quick tip number one, we're going to touch on chromatic aberration, something that I wasn't even aware of until I saw it in a large image I had printed, which was this one. An image I took in Vancouver, and it was the very first image I printed at any large size. I think it was 48 by 36. And when I blew it up and printed it, I discovered something that I was unhappy with in the finished result. And it's these purple and green fringing that happens in high contrast areas. And it's called chromatic aberration. Fortunately, Lightroom, within the lens correction area of the editing menu, has a quick little button, remove chromatic aberration, and you can see how immediately it really dealt with just about all of that magenta and green fringing that took place on the branches. And if I had simply known this one trick before printing a large canvas, I would have been much happier with the results. So there's a lot of different tutorials on chromatic aberration, what it is, and other ways to remove it. Even within Lightroom, there is a manual process that you can use where you can go find exactly the color that you're trying to get rid of, and by sampling there you can see it removed even more of it. So it's a very handy tool and something I highly recommend that you use. As a matter of fact, I have this as a preset on my imports to automatically do that. So whenever I'm editing in the future, and if I find myself wanting to add a significant amount of either vibrance or saturation, in this case I added a lot of saturation just to exaggerate the results, it's definitely something that you want to have in place, and that way you don't have to worry about it. So hopefully this was a good tip and helpful to you. Now let's move on to the second one, which deals with halos that you get when adding a lot of clarity, sharpness, in particular the radius dial on the sharpen filter. Here's an image I took of a water fountain, and it looks kind of cool, the water frozen in the air. But as I mentioned before, I'm a really big fan of a lot of clarity and a lot of sharpness and a kind of gritty feel to the images where you literally feel like you could reach in and grab something. I want what's on the screen to really pop. The problem when doing this is that, in particular, using the radius dial, you get this halo effect that you can see that fringes around any object of contrast in the screen, and you can reduce the radius. If you take the radius away, you can see a big chunk of the halo disappears, or most of it does. But if you look at an image overall, when you add that heavy radius, it can give it even more texture. So how do you deal with that? What's the best way to get rid of it? Because especially if you print anything of any size, that's going to be very clear. So the way to do that is take the image into Photoshop, which I've already done here. And what you're going to want to do is use the clone stamp tool. So the clone stamp tool you can see over here. And it's great for eliminating, typically people use it to get rid of a spot or something on a canvas. But if you take, and you notice up here on the mode where it says darken, what I've done is normally you're in a normal mode, and so you clone stamp something here, you sample, and then you paste over, and boom, it's gone. If you try to do that right here, and we come in here, this is what we get. So Control Z, undo that. And let's take our mode to darken. So what's going to happen here is when you sample a location and then you go to clone stamp that over, the only thing it will do is deal with areas that are lighter than the area that was sampled. And so it's a quick way to get rid of that halo. Now, if we wanted to look real close, you can see there's still a dark fringe. And the way to get rid of that is just the opposite. Change your mode from darken to lighten. And then go in here, sample. I'd use a smaller brush. And then you can paint over that black area and it takes it away too. Now I moved over into this, but you can see the way it works, and as a tool it's very helpful in a lot of different ways. I'll show you one other image that I use this on. If you're shooting a horizon and again you use a lot of clarity or the sharpness, you can get these white banding along the horizon line, and sometimes that'll make it look a little fake, like the sky was replaced or something along those lines. This is actually an image taken from Playa del Carmen. These dark spots on the horizon here are actually hotels in Cozumel. And what I'm going to do, if I can get my brush size a little bigger, is to sample in an area like there. And then when I come down onto this white line, if I click here in one area on the left there, click, it wants to replace it. Oops, sorry, I've got to go back. Let me change my mode to darken. And so if I click on that horizon line, hold down the shift key and come all the way over here to the other side, it will draw and erase that whole line at one fell swoop. So in each place you've got a linear place or a linear edge where you have the halo taking place, that's a real quick tool for eliminating that. And it looks great. It didn't even overwrite the hotels. They're still there, those dark spots. So one more quick tip for you there. Hope you enjoyed it. You can use it in your post-processing and ultimately give you images that you feel better about when you go to print them. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you found something beneficial in this. I also hope you'll consider joining us on April 14th for our Dallas Skyline workshop. Promises to be a great time and capture a lot of great images. Have a great day.